Watch This Week in Missouri Politics, Sunday mornings at 11 on ABC 30.
We'll start with you. The committee investigating how the governor handled Ferguson met last week and convened. What do you see coming to the committee?
You know, I think it'll be interesting to see what the legislature comes up with. I think there are some very legitimate questions about the way it was handled. I think you have very competent leadership in both parties and in both houses of the legislature that are going to be looking at this. You know, I think the deployment of the National Guard, the night of the verdict, and a number of other things since then, I think, are going to be looked at, and I think the public deserves to have some answers.
Jane, you're an attorney. What do you expect to come of this?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on which direction they're going. I think it would be better for everybody if there was sort of a list of topics and say, okay, this is what we want to know. And so then the governor and other state officials can say, okay, if it's money you want to talk about, how the money was spent, if it was how the decision was made, you know. And I think if there's at least a list of topics, then everybody can sort of look at and say, okay, if these are legitimate, then you know those questions should be answered. But I think it would behoove everyone to have a list and to know exactly what information we're seeking and why. I think the public would want to know that it's not just a political witch hunt and that it's not just, you know, non-productive, and that we know ahead of time sort of what this is going to do and what it's for.
Representative, you'll be reading this report when it's done, I guess. What would you consider to be a success? What would make this worthwhile?
I think it's very important that the committee take a methodical, timely approach rather than jump right out of the gate trying to get answers immediately. Take the time to listen and hear from those who are involved at all different levels on both sides of the issue and really think about it and ask the hard questions and get to the bottom of the situation, the events that have unfolded up to this point, and then take their time to come up with a report in the end to submit back to the legislature.
The political end of this, though, is sort of another coming out party for Senator Schaefer with his attorney general run. It seems like now the spotlight will be foisted back on him. Joe, what do you think this does for a primary opposition to him, or how can he make this and get all it's worth?
Yeah, you know, I think in the legislature you have opportunities to kind of showcase your skills, and I think it'll be interesting to watch and see how he's able to maneuver this. I know he's been has dealt with some very heavy issues in the legislature previously. It'll be interesting to see how it's handled.
Jeff, you've seen a bunch of these come and go. What would make this any different than the other ones we saw?
Well, I think that we have to look at this event that happened in Ferguson, and we have to respond quickly to rebuilding that community. I mean, we saw what happened in Joplin when they were hit by a tornado. I think the biggest strength to dealing with that issue and helping those people in that community is a rapid response. So I think first and foremost, we have to look at how we rebuild that community and to get with that program, whether it be working with the Missouri Division of Insurance to make sure that claims get handled if they're due to be paid, if the legislature has to create a funding mechanism to rebuild that community, coordination with with St. Louis County. But I think the whole thing is that we need to act quickly to restore the things, the basic needs of the mom and pops that live in that community, and that's what I think has been so devastating.
And I think politically, I think if the committee is just about looking at the past and just about sort of retribution, I think it will lose steam relatively quickly. But I think if it's focused on, look, the reason we're looking at this stuff is because we have to look forward and because we have to rebuild this community and make sure that we, never let this happen again or figure out what we can do differently so this doesn't happen again. And I think that would help the committee as well, is to make sure that it's looking forward for a forward-looking purpose and not just retribution.